Hey everyone. After doing the video that I did about just generally controlling the culture in martial arts, this seems like a reasonable follow-up. And I know I think I've done a video or two since then where I've talked about other things, but this does follow that up decently in that it deals with cultural stuff. Now, full disclosure, I understand I'm a man speaking about women's issues, so I can only speak about it from what I've seen and what I've been a part of. I'm not trying to say this to override anybody else's experience. I'm not saying this in an effort to say that what I've seen is the only way things are or the only way things can be. But I wanted to share my perspective and just put a message out there into the world for whatever it might be worth. In a lot of movies and in articles and in popular culture and discussion, you will encounter these conversations about whether women belong in a certain place. And right off the bat, the basic message I think should be, well, of course, women belong anywhere men do, with rare exception based on certain, maybe very specific, very relevant factors. In principle, anybody, regardless of gender, should be able to pursue whatever lifestyle they want. They should be able to pursue whatever hobbies they want. How successful they're going to be is going to depend on all kinds of factors. And whether or not those factors have anything to do with their sex or their gender is a discussion to be had for that specific hobby or for that specific pursuit. So right off the bat, that's my general perspective on these things. Okay. In the context of martial arts, you see, it seemed like there were a lot of these like 80s and maybe early 90s action movies where there was this whole girls don't belong in martial arts things, there was that perspective being put forward. And yeah, you'll encounter it. But my experience has been that in actual places where people train, it's rarely something that people do or say. Every place where I've ever trained, if anybody ever said something like that, women don't belong in martial arts, they would get drummed out. In fact, one of the places I trained, the head instructor was a woman. Very, very tough lady. And in other places where I've trained, there have been high-ranking women. And I tend to encourage that. Though I realize there's a balance that we have to strike there. And we want to make sure that we're promoting something, we're promoting diversity, and we're promoting equality without handling people with kids' gloves. And maybe that is a bigger bias that I've encountered compared to the whole ostracizing, outcasting, oh, all the men are over here and we get to do the tough stuff and you women don't belong in here. I haven't seen too much of that, fortunately. Now, I'm not saying it's not out there. I'm just saying that, at least in my case, I've been exposed to places where that doesn't happen. Most of the women I've trained with have had pretty good experiences as well. There are exceptions. And I've heard enough exceptions to those stories. I've heard enough negative stories from women I know who've trained in martial arts to know that it does happen out there, that there are places that are very sexist, places that are very bigoted. So again, I'm not trying to say it doesn't happen. I'm just saying I don't think it's this massive issue in the way that people say. So again, I don't think it's necessarily a case of a lot of places saying no women allowed. Of course, that would be illegal in lots of cases anyway. Or having an attitude where women are totally not welcome. I'll tell you what I have seen, though. It comes back to what I was saying earlier, this kids' gloves idea of having a woman come into a place that's male-dominated and then all the men feeling like they have to be very careful with them. And the intentions may be good, but you have to be careful with that because ultimately, if it's a physical art, if it's a martial art, martial referring to war, to combat, then you're doing a disservice to anybody who doesn't get that experience of actually being challenged in a very physical way, to having, for lack of a better word, some sense of danger. There is some risk inherent in training in martial arts. I've incurred a lot. I've got arthritis in several joints. I'm beat up from head to toe, and that's not because of people were mean to me. Usually, it's because it's just a dangerous thing to do. And if we insulate people too much from that danger, then we're doing them a disservice. And if you want to talk about equality and about allowing people to pursue passions and hobbies and vocations and skills to equal degrees, well, then you have to let them expose themselves to that danger. And almost every woman, there are rare exceptions, but almost every woman I've trained with have said, hey man, don't take it easy on me. It's not like they don't know that they might be weaker than I am or than some other guy. that's in the class or in the club. That's well known. But that's not really the issue anyway. So I think that's something we need to be careful of. Just be inclusive in that way. Be inclusive in the sense that, oh, okay, yeah, sure, you can come on in. And in fact, we're going to beat up on you just like we beat up on everybody else. And I say beat up in a very cheerful, kind of half-joking way. It's just how I speak about going to training. I say all the time I'm going to training. Oh, I'm going to judo. I'm going to get beaten up again today. We take care of each other, but we are firm, and yeah, we can be aggressive. But there's a line you don't cross. You don't want to be so soft that you're being overly soft on people and you're not preparing them for any conflict or not preparing them for competition or whatever it is. But at the same time, of course, you don't want to be abusive, right? And so there's a sweet spot, and we want everybody to be there. So that's a big point I wanted to make. And coming to the point about being stronger or whatever, obviously there are exceptions to that too. Now, I'm a physiologist by education and training. I've taught exercise science in colleges, and I continue to consult in that realm. And I deal with a lot of just scientific realities, biological realities, and whatnot. I feel it's not controversial at all to say that there's sexual dimorphism. That's a fact. In general, men are stronger than women. Stronger in terms of what their muscles can handle and how dense their bones are, and even some of the anthropometric factors. So how things are shaped and structured, they often are able to generate greater forces, and physically they are more capable in that way. And even if you look at fiber type and explosiveness, there might be some differences there. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but the point is just that there are some general differences, but for any individual person, those differences may not apply. I have met women who are bigger and stronger than I am, and I've trained with them. I've gotten the crap kicked out of me by women before. And I've also gotten the crap kicked out of me by women who are not bigger and stronger. One of my most profound jiu-jitsu experiences happened not too many months ago, where a woman, a few years younger than I am, but I shouldn't call her girl really, I guess, was doing a drill. We were doing no-gi sparring, and she managed to continually just lock me up and choke me out. I must have gotten tapped out 7 or 8 times in one round with her, something like that. And at the time, I'm a few pounds lighter now. At the time, I was about 190, 195 pounds, down about mid-180s right now. But she couldn't have been heavier than about 110. And she was small. She was small and dense. Small enough that I couldn't wrap her up in my arms or in my legs. The gaps were too big, and she would just slither right out. And then she'd wrap around me like an anaconda and just, put me where she wanted me. And that was amazing, So I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge that there are people out there, I never will judge just based on physicality. Even if I know I'm stronger, I may not be better technically. And that's really what it boils down to with martial arts. You work on whatever you can work on. So to anybody, man, woman, or neither, when you are training, that's an opportunity for you to build up your strengths and cater to those things, absolutely. And God forbid, if you get in a fight on the street or somebody attacks you, you would want to be able to use whatever you're best at to your advantage. But at the same time, you're also working on your weaknesses, either trying to build them up, or trying to fortify them in some way so that people cannot take advantage of them, something like that. And that may simply consist of knowing what your weakness is and not putting yourself in a position for somebody to exploit it. In self-defense, that's a big thing that we think about. It's a central tenet, right? Don't be there. Don't be in a dangerous situation. Well, how I think about that is or at least part of how I think about it is don't allow people to exploit your weaknesses. Don't let them even know about them, or don't put yourself in a position where they can exploit them. So if you know you're weaker than the other person, you're going to avoid putting yourself in positions, physically or literally or otherwise, where people can exploit their strength advantage over you. If you're not very flexible, then there are certain moves you don't want to do. If you have coordination issues with certain kinds of moves, you don't want to do those, and you want to put yourself in situations where you can do different things. And the list goes on and on. So that's a really big thing. And I might speak more about that in a future video. Additionally, a final point I want to make is this. I was watching a recent video, and this video, in fact, partly inspired this video. But it involved, I think it was 4 women who were sitting having a conversation about women's issues in martial arts. They talked about a number of things, but one kind of dissented from the others in that she did not have as big of a negative experience in martial arts as some of the other ones had had. That is, she didn't acknowledge it as necessarily a big issue, the sexism thing. She said she always had felt invited and always felt welcome, felt like she was part of the group, and it was a very warm, inviting, and loving thing, and so she was very fortunate for that. And she used the expression, all the guys I train with treat me like I'm just one of the guys. And I get what she was trying to say, but even in that, maybe there's an assumption that we shouldn't make. The default should not be one of the guys. The default should just be one of the martial artists, one of the training partners, one of the people. And that's how I think about people who are in my club or in my school where I train. You're just one of my people. That's it. Whether you're a male or female has nothing to do with anything unless it specifically becomes relevant for a certain thing we're doing. And that's pretty rare. So I don't, oh, she's just one of the guys. Well, that sounds like it's defaulting her over into maleness or into manhood or something, and as though the ideal is being male. Maybe others don't see it that way, but it kind of jumped out at me, and that's not the message I want to send either. And it's not like I'm denying my own maleness. I'm not. I'm just saying that, well, a woman should feel as much like a woman as she ever does, whether she's training or not. Just as a man should feel like a man, and whatever that means to him. Whatever that means to her, feeling like a woman, that's what it should be. And so to me, my training partners are just my training partners. Their sex or gender typically is incidental. And if that doesn't mean anything, or if that seems silly to you, then that's fine. But I wanted to share that perspective. So I don't think that martial arts, in the places where I happen to have trained, it's necessarily as big of a deal, this idea of women can't be a part of our group. I haven't seen much of that. What I have seen is this idea of we need to treat the women more delicately. I think that sometimes people go too far with that. And there's almost always been this, we need more women, because it has been typically male-dominated, most of the places where I've trained, all of the places where I've trained. And certainly, I always invite women to come and train with me. If you're interested in it, it's for you. Don't think that by default it is not for you. Whether you're a man or a woman or neither, whether you are old or young, whether you're physically very spry or you feel like you're frail, or whether you have limitations, whether you have insecurities, doesn't matter. You can make martial arts work for you on some level. So that's my rant about that. If you see this and you have comments, if you agree, if you disagree, I welcome you to comment in comment in the comments. Let me know what you think. And I'd love to just keep this conversation going. I do think people need to talk about this stuff and just get their reality out there and their perspective out there, and we can respectfully agree and disagree and have the dialogue. But I think it's better than just, if there is a problem, burying it, right? So there you go. I'm going to stop ranting here. This got long, and hopefully I'll be able to keep some of the shorter, just kind of short and sweet martial arts clips of me actually chucking people around or getting chucked around, because I figured people probably like that more. And at any rate, I did feel a need just to talk about this and get it out there. So hope you're doing well. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't, because I will have occasional talks like this and a lot of other stuff that involves just actual martial arts stuff. You can check what's on the channel already. And yeah, with that, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great day. Take care.